Hi you guys, if you're watching this video, that means that you're interested in learning to adjust your camera iPhone settings. Most people aren't interested in a conversation about camera iPhone settings. It's a little technical and we usually watch these videos to become better photographers. However, if you are using your iPhone to take pictures, you want to be sure that your camera settings are exactly what they need to be in order to get the highest resolution possible. For those reasons, we're going to go over the most important settings, and we're also going to go over how to adjust the value of those settings so that when you take pictures with your iPhone, they really do have that quality that you're after. So let's get our phones out. We're going to go into settings and get started. So if you're ready to start applying changes to your iPhone settings, the first thing you want to do is turn your iPhone on, and then what you're going to do is go to the home page. Here you will find the settings gearbox. Go ahead and select that, and then scroll all the way down until you find the camera app. From here, we can go ahead and start adjusting our settings. The first thing we're going to want to do is to turn that grid pattern on at the top. Now, the grid pattern may seem like it obstructs the view of our subjects in the frame, but it's actually used as a really nice tool for placement and for composition. So now that we've applied a grid pattern, the second thing we want to do is to adjust our formatting. In the middle of our settings page, you'll find a format tab. Go ahead and push format, and below you'll see two settings. The first is called high efficiency and the second is called most compatible. Now the high efficiency formatting is Apple's default setting, and this allows better storage capabilities with our iPhone. The second is most compatible, and what most compatible format is called a JPEG format. Now this is the most widely used format in the world, and there are two reasons we might want to use the JPEG format instead of the high efficiency. The first is it's easy to email your images and share it with other people who don't have an Apple device. And the second is that we can use our images inside of image editing programs that Apple might not use. So for those two reasons, it's very useful to go ahead and use the most compatible format instead of the high efficiency. So the last setting we want to change is going to be that HDR setting at the bottom of our settings page. Now HDR stands for high dynamic range, and this is a very useful tool in situations where we have a underexposed subject and an overexposed background. However, we want to take this setting off of automatic mode in our camera settings so that we can manually control it in our camera application. So at the same time that you deselect the HDR, please select Keep Normal Photos. So now that we have all our settings the way we want them, let's go ahead and close out of settings, and we're going to get into the camera application itself. From here, we're going to take a look around at all the functions that this camera application has to offer. So now that our camera is on, the first thing you're going to notice are the grid lines that run through your frame. Now there are two vertical lines and two horizontal lines. Now again, these lines may seem like they obstruct your view, but actually they're a very useful tool for subject placement and composition. Now on the right side of your screen, you'll notice all of the modes. We'll be covering all the modes at a later tutorial, but right now we're going to be focusing on the functions, which are on the left side of your screen. Now each of these functions has a different purpose and a different use. We're going to go over them one at a time and see what each of these functions do for our images. So the first function we want to cover is going to be the filter function. You can find the filter function at the top left-hand side of your screen. It's also the function that has three overlapping gray circles. Once you've selected it, you will notice all of the filter options on the right-hand side of your screen. You'll have options such as vivid cool, vivid warm, dramatic, and so on. You'll also note that once you are using a filter, your three overlapping circles will be in color. Now, I don't tend to use the filters very much. I like to edit all of my images in post-processing. This gives me a lot more image control and option. We'll be covering all of this in a later tutorial. Now, if you would like to go back to your original format, just select original at the bottom of those options and then press the three overlapping circles once again. So the next function down is going to be the self timer. If you select the self timer, you will notice three different options. The first is off. You'll also have an option for a 3 or 10-second delay. I don't tend to use this option very much. However, it does have its uses when we are changing the shutter speed around. So depending on the kind of effect you want, the timer can be of use. Otherwise, I tend to keep this function off. The next function I want to talk about is going to be the live photo function. When this function is active, you will see our two little circles in yellow, and when this function is inactive, it'll be crossed out. Now essentially what this function does is it captures a little video clip before and after the image you take. This is very useful when you have moving subjects and you don't want them blurred away. Now I don't have any moving subjects here behind me on my bridge, so I'm going to leave this function inactive and crossed out for now. Now the next function we need to talk about is the HDR function, or high dynamic range. If you remember, we changed this function to manual mode in our camera settings earlier. And this is because we want to have control over this function in our application. Now, when you select the icon, you will notice three options. One to turn it off, to turn it on, and there's another option for automatic mode. Now my advice to you would be to keep this function in automatic. And this is because this function actually helps our images the majority of the time. It does tend to balance out the light very well between the subject and the background. However, it's very nice to have the option to turn it off when you want. Now the last function we need to cover is going to be that flash function. This will be found at the bottom of the left-hand side. It also looks like a lightning bolt. Now when you select this icon, again, you will see three options. One for on, off, and automatic. Now, I don't tend to use the flash very often. The iPhone flash is not very powerful, and you need to be very close to your subject for it to work. Even if you do have a close subject, it tends to distort color balance and leave your subject slightly overexposed. So for these reasons, I tend not to use it. The only time I do use the flash is when I have no other options for exposing my subject. Hey guys, so that's going to cover all of our setting tips for the iPhone. I'm sorry I did not create a video for Androids or Galaxies or any other device. I just don't have the time to do that, and I only have the iPhone that I carry, so I could only put this one video together. I think you will find that all of the camera applications on all of the devices work in a very similar way. It also is important to know that you do not need to have an iPhone for this class. You can have any device, and I will accept your images. Doesn't matter which device you carry. I hope we can get back on campus, you guys. I miss all of you. I really do hope that we can get back and start to teach these classes live. There's just so much more that I could teach you about photography if we could have a classroom setting. But we'll do as much as we can while I have you online. I hope you will enjoy the class. I will see you next week for Fill Frame. All right, have a great weekend.